You think of someone out of nowhere, someone you haven't spoken to in years. No reason, no trigger, they just pop into your head. And 30 seconds later, your phone buzzes. It's them, you brush it off. Weird coincidence. You move on with your day. Here's the thing though. That word coincidence is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It's the word we use specifically so we don't have to think about what just happened. Because if you're honest with yourself, some of these moments don't feel random. They feel like they mean something. Like the universe just tapped you on the shoulder for a reason you can't quite explain. One of the most respected minds in the history of psychology refused to just shrug these moments off. Carl Jung, a man who trained directly under Freud, who helped build the entire foundation of modern psychology, became obsessed with a question almost nobody in serious science was willing to ask out loud. What if some coincidences aren't coincidences at all? What if your mind and the outside world are connected by something science hasn't figured out how to measure yet? Jung didn't just ask the question. He teamed up with one of the greatest physicists alive at the time to build an actual theory around it. Today, we're breaking down synchronicity, and by the end, you're going to look at your own coincidences completely differently. Let's start with the moment that started it all. Jung was treating a patient, a woman deeply resistant to therapy, locked into a rigid, hyper-rational way of seeing the world. Progress was basically frozen. During one session, she described a dream from the night before. In it, someone had given her a piece of jewelry shaped like a golden scarab beetle. As she finished describing the dream, Jung heard a gentle tapping sound at the window behind him. He turned, opened it, and found a beetle attempting to fly into the room. Not just any beetle, a scarabaeid beetle, the closest real-world equivalent to a golden scarab that exists in that part of the world, and a species that almost never behaves this way, actively trying to enter a dark room. Jung caught it mid-air, handed it to his patient and said, "Here is your scarab, here's why this moment mattered so much." It wasn't just a strange event. It cracked something open in his patient's rigid worldview, and shortly after, her treatment finally began to move forward. Jung couldn't explain the beetle through cause and effect. Nothing physically caused the beetle to appear at that exact moment because of the dream. There was no mechanism, no chain of events linking the woman's inner experience to the insect outside the window, but there was meaning. A profound, specific, almost impossible alignment between an inner psychological state and an outer physical event, and Jung became convinced that meaning itself might be a real force in the universe, one that operates completely outside the rules of ordinary cause and effect. Jung needed a name for this. He called it synchronicity, meaningful coincidence, where an inner psychological state and an outer event align, without one causing the other. This is the part that separates synchronicity from just believing in signs. Jung was explicit. He wasn't claiming the thought caused the phone call. He wasn't claiming the dream caused the beetle. Causation, in the traditional scientific sense, wasn't the mechanism at all. Instead, Jung proposed something stranger, that these events are connected by meaning rather than mechanism. Two things happening in a way that feels significant to the person experiencing them, without any physical chain linking them together. Now, here's where this stops being just one psychologist's hunch and starts getting genuinely strange. Because Jung didn't develop this theory in isolation, scribbling in a notebook by himself. He built it in close collaboration with one of the most brilliant physicists of the 20th century, a man who won the Nobel Prize and who had his own deeply unsettling reasons for taking Jung's ideas. Seriously, their partnership produced an idea so strange it still makes physicists uncomfortable to this day. Before we get into that, if this is the kind of mind-bending psychology and science crossover you come here for, hit subscribe right now, because we dig into ideas like this every single week. And if that scarab beetle story just gave you chills, drop a like. I promise it gets stranger from here. Let's keep going. The physicist's name was Wolfgang Pauli, and if you've ever taken a chemistry class, you've unknowingly used his work, the Pauli exclusion principle, is fundamental to how we understand atomic structure. This was not a fringe thinker. This was one of the sharpest scientific minds of his generation. Pauli came to Jung as a patient dealing with a period of intense personal crisis, and what emerged from their years of correspondence was startling. Pauli, immersed daily in the strange probabilistic world of quantum physics, started noticing something. At the quantum level, particles don't behave according to strict, predictable cause and effect the way classical physics assumed. Outcomes are probabilistic. Connections exist between particles, called quantum entanglement, where two particles can affect each other's state instantly across any distance without a direct physical signal traveling between them. To Pauli, matter and mind suddenly didn't seem so separate. If the physical universe at its most fundamental level didn't run on strict linear causation, then maybe Jung's idea about the mind and the world connecting through meaning rather than mechanism wasn't so far outside the boundaries of real science after all. Together, Jung and Pauli proposed something genuinely radical. That synchronicity might be a fundamental principle of the universe, sitting right alongside cause and effect, not replacing it, but running parallel to it. A second set of rules operating through meaning instead of mechanism that occasionally intersects with our lives in moments that feel too precise to be random. To be clear, this idea was never accepted by mainstream physics, and it remains highly controversial and unproven by scientific standards. Most scientists view synchronicity as a psychological phenomenon. Our brains are pattern recognition machines wired to notice and remember meaningful feeling coincidences while forgetting the thousands of meaningless ones. But the fact that a Nobel Prize-winning physicist took the idea seriously enough to spend years developing it says something about how genuinely strange this territory is. So what do you actually do with this? Jung believed synchronicities tend to cluster around moments of major psychological transition. Grief, falling in love, a career collapsing, a spiritual awakening. Moments when your inner world is undergoing significant change seem to be exactly when these meaningful alignments show up most frequently. Think about the timing of the coincidences that have genuinely struck you in your own life. Chances are they didn't happen during a random Tuesday afternoon. They happened during a breakup, right before a huge decision, in the middle of a personal crisis, or in a moment of genuine transformation. Jung didn't see this as superstition. He saw it as a signal, not necessarily that the universe is sending you a literal message, but that your unconscious mind might be more attuned, more open, more receptive during these charged emotional periods. And that heightened receptivity might be exactly what makes you notice connections that were always there, hiding in the noise of ordinary life. Whether or not you believe the universe is literally arranging events for you, there's something worth taking from this. Paying closer attention to these moments, instead of dismissing them instantly as just a coincidence, might reveal something real about where you are in your own psychological journey. Here's what stays with me about this whole theory. We live in a culture obsessed with rational explanation, with cause and effect, with proof. And there's real value in that. But Jung and Pauli built an entire framework around one uncomfortable idea, that some of the most meaningful moments in your life might never fit neatly into that box. You don't have to believe the universe is mystically arranging your phone calls, but the next time something happens that stops you cold, a thought right before a call, a name right before you see it written somewhere, a symbol that shows up twice in one day. Maybe don't rush to explain it away. Sit with it for a second instead. Ask what it might mean rather than immediately asking what caused it. If this changed the way you think about coincidence, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're exploring a new mind-expanding psychological theory just like this every single week. And drop a comment telling me about the strangest, most meaningful coincidence that's ever happened to you. I want to read every single one. See you in the next one.